Welcome to this explainer. As we gear up for the massive 2026 World Cup, it's super easy to just get lost in the sheer scale of the whole thing. But when we actually start digging into the data and the history, a completely hidden reality pops up. The beautiful game is honestly a battleground of two totally contrasting forces. Off the pitch, we've got a century-old playbook of political manipulation and boardroom maneuvering. But on the pitch, we're watching a hyper-modern revolution driven by flawless, automated artificial intelligence. So today, we're going to unpack both of these realities to reveal the hidden mechanics running global football.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the sports washing playbook. Then, a legacy of corruption. After that, we'll see how AI enters the pitch, dive into data, tactics, and scouting, and wrap up with the future of football.
Section 1. The sports washing playbook. A century of distraction. All right, let's dive into our first reality, the boardroom and the grandstands. This is where leaders have historically leveraged the absolutely massive cultural footprint of the World Cup to control narratives and consolidate power. If you've ever felt like a World Cup was basically being used as a giant PR stunt, well, you hit the nail on the head. To really understand the political history of the tournament, we've got to anchor ourselves to a concept the sources call sports washing. It's essentially defined as using these mega events to sanitize a regime's image, distract the global public from abuses, and project power. It's a public relations tool deployed on literally the grandest scale imaginable. And it's honestly staggering when you look at how deep this playbook runs. The sources trace a timeline that kicks off way back in 1934. That's when Benito Mussolini used the Italy World Cup as a pure propaganda tool to project fascist strength and wash away atrocities in Libya. Move forward to 1978, and you have General Videla's Argentine military junta using the tournament's festive vibe to distract the world from a brutal, dirty war and thousands of disappearances. Fast forward to today, and analysts applied this exact same pattern to Vladimir Putin's Russia in 2018 and Qatar in 2022. It's a proven, century-old formula, right? Deflect, distract, and dazzle the world with football. Now, this historical lens isn't just for looking backward. Critics are pointing it directly at the upcoming 2026 World Cup in the United States. Political scientists, like Jules Boykoff, highlight real concerns among activists that the tournament could be used to sanitize recent domestic and foreign controversies on the world stage. The sources cite heavy criticisms regarding things like ICE crackdowns on undocumented immigrants, controversial foreign policies, and foreign conflicts under the Trump administration. The fear here is that the pure joy of the 2026 tournament might just be leveraged as another massive distraction. To really wrap your head around the scale of this manipulation, check out this number, 35,000. That's the staggering amount of grain, in tons, that Argentina allegedly donated to Peru back in 1978. According to the sources, this massive donation is widely seen as a flat-out geopolitical bribe to convince the Peruvian team to throw a crucial World Cup match. Argentina ultimately won that match 6-0 on their way to the championship. It just goes to show, political manipulation isn't just about PR. It can literally infect the game itself. Section 2. A legacy of corruption, building the FIFA machine. So to pull all of this off, these politicians obviously need a partner. And that brings us to the global organization that enables the whole machine, FIFA. To understand how this culture even developed, we have to look at the evolution of their leadership. It starts with Jules Rimet. His somewhat naive commitment to neutrality is what allowed Mussolini to hijack that 1934 tournament. Then Joël Havelange takes over in the 70s, aggressively commercializing the game and setting up a system where development funds were essentially traded for votes. Then Sepp Blatter inherited and perfected this system, leading to an era of explosive wealth and, frankly, staggering scandal. And today, under Gianni Infantino, well, the sources suggest that this deeply entrenched, highly commercialized structure remains fully intact. To truly grasp the sheer scale of the boardroom corruption cultivated over these decades, look at this figure, $150 million. That is the unbelievable amount of bribes and kickbacks uncovered by the U.S. Department of Justice during their massive 2015 investigation into FIFA officials. It was a pretty stark revelation for fans everywhere that the beautiful game had been corrupted by executives, basically just enriching themselves through broadcasting and hosting rights. The sources actually provide a really clear framework for how this happened. Analysts describe FIFA's internal structure not just as a sports governing body, but as a highly sophisticated network of patronage. Essentially, leaders secured their power by handing out millions in development funds to smaller football federations around the globe. But the unwritten string attached to that cash? Total loyalty and guaranteed votes.
It created what commentators and the sources describe as a mafia-type operation, completely devoid of any proper checks and balances. And this super cozy relationship with global power is absolutely still a thing today. The sources point out a highly publicized moment that perfectly captures this dynamic. Current FIFA president Gianni Infantino awarding Donald Trump a customized FIFA Peace Prize. For critics, this moment perfectly illustrates just how deeply intertwined football's governing body remains with political leaders. It seems to prioritize access and commercial success over the actual human rights policies written directly into FIFA's own rulebook.
Section 3. AI enters the pitch. The algorithm intervenes.
Okay, let's pivot entirely. We're moving away from the corrupt, highly subjective human element in the boardroom and looking at the hyper-objective automated reality that's rapidly taking over the pitch itself. The crucial point here is this stark contrast highlighted in the source material. Historically, refereeing and tactical analysis relied entirely on the human element, and humans are subjective, biased, prone to fatigue, and, as we've just seen, susceptible to manipulation. But the new AI element being introduced to the World Cup is a totally different beast. It is strictly objective, it boasts millimeter precision, and it evaluates the state of the game 500 times a second without blinking, without emotion, and absolutely without a political agenda. It's a complete paradigm shift. So how does this actually work down on the grass? Take offsides, for example. Dedicated cameras mounted under the stadium roof are constantly capturing positional data. At the exact same time, an AI system is crunching that data, along with data from a sensor placed literally inside the ball 500 times a second. If a player steps even a fraction offside, a 3D model is generated instantly and the referee is notified in real time. Those agonizing delays and human errors we're all so used to shouting at the TV about, completely gone.
But this level of technological control extends way beyond the grass. If you're attending a match in 2026, AI is managing your safety by looking at a real-time, virtual replica of the physical stadium you're standing in. Organizers are using what they call digital twins across all 16 physical venues. This means from a single AI command center, officials can monitor crowd flows, predict logistical bottlenecks, and micromanage fan safety across 3 different countries simultaneously. It is a level of surveillance and management that is just unprecedented in sports history.
And the tracking itself is incredibly intimate. Through partnerships with tech companies like Lenovo, the system now scans up to 10,000 distinct data points on a single player's body. That creates an ultra-accurate 3D avatar of the athlete. So it's not just a rough estimation of where a player is on the field, it is a precise mathematical map of their shoulders, knees, and toes, evaluated right down to the millimeter to ensure absolute precision in rule enforcement.
Section 4. Data, tactics, and scouting. The new meta.
Now, this massive influx of data isn't just helping out the referees anymore. It is fundamentally changing how coaches manage their teams on the sidelines and how clubs hunt for the next generation of global talent. Think about it. Analysts who used to spend 8 hours agonizing over video of an opponent can now run positional data through AI software and get actionable insights in just 8 seconds. Even crazier, by tracking physical metrics in real time, coaches can actually predict player exhaustion. They can literally substitute a player before an injury even has the chance to happen. And globally, algorithms are just constantly running in the background, automatically sifting through mountains of data to uncover hitting talent in the lower leagues. The source material actually shares a really fascinating analogy for how advanced this has all become, the crystal molecule model. Machine learning engineers are using graph neural networks, which, by the way, were originally designed to study how atoms arrange themselves in molecules to map out player formations. The AI looks at the 11 players on a pitch as a highly complex geometric structure. It's constantly calculating how a tiny, slight shift in their positioning changes the exact probability of a successful counterattack. It is literally turning the beautiful, chaotic art of football into a hard geometric science. And when it comes to scouting, the numbers are just as bold. The sources highlight an AI platform called Player that analyzes up to 400 unique data points per athlete across hundreds of thousands of games. By evaluating a player's performance under pressure, say, looking at a talent like Bayern Munich's Jamal Musiala, the developers claim the AI can predict a young talent's future performance trajectory with an astonishing 90% accuracy. That's a total game changer for scouting.
Section 5. The future of football. Democratizing or dominating. So as these two realities collide, the deeply entrenched, money-driven boardrooms of FIFA and the hyper-advanced AI systems taking over the game, what is the ultimate impact on the global balance of the sport? Well, there are two distinct paths forward presented in the sources. The first is democratization. This is the optimistic view, where data gives visibility to hidden talent anywhere in the world, allowing smaller, underfunded clubs to compete by finding undervalued gems. But the opposing view is domination. This is the harsh reality that developing, hosting, and interpreting elite AI systems requires massive capital. Because of that, the wealthiest clubs and nations will simply adapt faster and integrate the tech a lot deeper.
This quote from machine learning engineer Ahmad Sisrora really perfectly encapsulates the concern. He points out that while the AI tools themselves might be available, the insight required to actually use them properly costs a premium. So, much like the patronage systems of FIFA's past, where resources were hoarded by those at the very top, the newest technological advancements might not level the playing field at all. In fact, they might just concentrate power even further into the hands of the elite.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative question to ponder as we approach the 2026 World Cup. Will artificial intelligence finally bring objective fairness and fix the subjective flaws of the beautiful game? Or will it just provide the wealthiest teams and the most powerful political nations with yet another weapon to assert their dominance? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Next time you sit down to watch a match, I highly encourage you to look beyond the surface of the pitch and remember the two realities pulling the strings in the background. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.